Hey guys, so I just wanted to make a little video real quick, to kind of just explain. I know some of you guys may be confused, like, so is her name Grace or is it Gracie? I know her Facebook says Grace, but she introduced herself as Gracie, and I'm hearing both. So, kind of wanted to explain a little bit about that. So, my real name is Grace. That's what's written on my birth certificate. But yes, I have been introducing myself as Gracie, and that is something new. Um, that's been recent. And so I wanted to explain like why that is, how that came about. Um, so it may sound cheesy, but you know how there's like the story of Saul and he had his encounter with God and then he became Paul. And then there's the story of Abram and how, he had his encounter with God and he changed his name to Abraham and all of those things. Um, well, I grew up Christian all my life in the same way that like Saul did. Like he was a Pharisee and he, knew the law and he was super religious. And then like he had his crazy encounter with Jesus, right? So I had my encounter with Jesus where I felt like I heard the gospel for the first time. Um, in in about a year ago now. And I had a whole celebration celebrating the death of my old self. The old Grace is dead, and literally had a legit funeral service. Um, my friends were like, "What is going on?" And had a marriage ceremony where I was getting married to Jesus and all this stuff. And one of the main things that was so like transformational for me, of like encountering Jesus and hearing the gospel, was like this concept of identity, right? Like, because before I had this identity of like, well, I'm just a sinner, I believe in Jesus, he's forgiven me, but now I have to try really hard not to suck. And every time I do suck, like I have all this shame, guilt, and condemnation because I did the bad thing, right? So like with this new like encounter of like my identity as like God's daughter and that like I'm his princess, and that I'm already holy, righteous, blameless, without reproach, and I'm clothed in his white robe of righteousness and all this stuff, right? Like it was just like so transformational for me. And like I felt God being like, Grace, you had a legit encounter with me. And whenever someone is marked, like it changes who they are, it changes their identity, right? Like Saul to Paul, Abram to Abraham, they're who they were literally changed. And so the biggest thing, like I said, for me was identity. So I took the I, like the letter I from identity, and stuck it in my name, Grace, and put it in there to become Gracie, right? So I introduced myself as Gracie, just as a reminder of like how the old Grace is dead and now how I'm a new creation in Christ. And in addition to that, Gracie is more feminine, like it's more girly than Grace. And I've always felt like, I don't know, like kind of ridiculous. Like, oh God, people are gonna think I'm being extra if I introduce myself as Gracie, you know? And it really, it was just rooted in like this place of like where I didn't feel feminine. I made another video about this earlier about how like I've kind of always felt masculine most of my life because I've always been in sports. Um, and I've got like muscles, and I used to feel like I have man arms, and people used to make fun of me for being a tomboy, and people used to call me a shim growing up. A shim is like a she, him. Anyways, so I never really felt like desirable or like pretty or like, and I'd always be kind of like surprised when a guy would say that he thought I was attractive. Like I didn't have self-esteem issues, but I just like never really felt feminine. And so like definitely am in the season where God has like been restoring my femininity to me. And so Gracie comes along with that. And like I know that God's like wanting me to become more comfortable with like claiming that for myself and like being like, yes, I'm a girl. It's okay to like pink. It's okay to wear jewelry. It's okay to call yourself Gracie, because I secretly like it. Like my parents call me Gracie, like, grandmothers, people that have known me most of my life call me Gracie. And I've always liked it, but like felt too embarrassed to like ask people to call me that or like introduce myself that way. So every time I introduce myself as Gracie, it's reaffirming like who I am now, the new creation, and affirming like, yes, I am a girl made in God's image. And like, there's something specific that God is saying about who he is through women. Right. So, and I just want to share a quick testimony with you guys. The other day, actually, literally yesterday, I, had a friend over, and it was a guy, and like we were hanging out. And he said to me, he's like, Gracie, I just want to let you know, like, I'm sensing such a crazy like atmosphere of innocence and purity on you. And guys, literally, I just like started tearing up. I was just like so wrecked by that because most of my life, I talked a little bit about the shame and condemnation of like my past life. Like I didn't think that I was pure at all. Like I had so much shame. I felt dirty. Like no good man would really want me because of my past, and like that was part of what was so life changing to me when I heard the gospel was like, God's like, I have made you clean. Like that old Grace is dead. That's not even you anymore. You are whole, you are righteous, and you're made new. And so like hearing that from this guy that I literally just met, right? So like he had no idea like what my story was or what I've been through. Just like God was like, Grace, I have restored your innocence and your purity, and like other people see it. And like, guys, I was just so wrecked. And it was just such a confirmation that like this was from God and like that Gracie is really who I really am now. So yay, the end. I just wanted to share that with you guys. Appreciate you listening and taking the time to understand more about my life.